Hello and welcome to the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lily Badcock and I am a transformational confidence coach and founder of the Confidence Academy Members Club, helping men and women just like you to build unshakable confidence and self-belief. Each week, I will be bringing you new episodes with advice and guidance to help you rebuild lost confidence, manage anxiety, and finally start living the life you were born to live. It is my aim to reach as many people as possible with the message that no matter what you're going through, no matter what your struggle may be, there is hope. And there is a way to create an amazing life for yourself. The incredible people I have been blessed to interview on the show are walking, talking examples of how this is possible. And I truly hope you will find their stories uplifting, inspiring, and motivational. The conversations are very open and candid and occasionally may include some adult language, so please take care when listening around little ones or grab some headphones. This podcast series is brought to you in association with Lily Badcock Confidence Coaching and the Confidence Academy Members Club. If you are ready to make the shift from anxious and frustrated to calm and confident, then visit www.lilybadcock.com today and get started with the free resources that are waiting there for you. I need you to know that you're not alone, that it can and will get easier, and that the transformation you seek is possible. You are more powerful than you know, and I'm here to teach you everything I know about harnessing that power and creating an amazing life on your terms. Before we dive in, don't forget to leave a review for us on iTunes and to check out the links in the podcast notes to the free resources we have available for you. But for now, let's get you on your way to living your epic life, free of anxiety and full of confidence. After all, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. Hello everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Lily Badcock and I am here live with an amazing young lady called Georgie Budd. Now, Georgie is someone that I've known, I don't even want to say how many years I've known you.
I was a teenager.
That's terrifying.
I was about 14, 13 when I was in D minor.
Holy moly. So I've known her like a few years, let's say a few years. And we know each other through singing. And I used to teach Georgie, as she just mentioned, in a group called E minor. And so we've been connected for years and years, but I'm so excited to have her on today for a number of reasons, actually. First and foremost, because she's a beautiful human being and you all need to hear her story. Also, she is now Dr. Budd.
I am.
So it's always very exciting to get somebody on here from the medical profession, because I interview people from all walks of life and it's always interesting to get the different perspectives. So that's really interesting. But also, and I'm going to let Georgie tell her own story, but I'll give you a bit of a background. How long ago are we talking now? Maybe a year? Just over a year?
It's about 15, 16 months now.
Yeah. So about 15, 16 months ago, Georgie was in a horrific car accident, which meant she lost the use of her legs. And I've just been in awe of the girl since then, because you started a blog. And as we were saying just before we came on air, you've been sharing warts and all, like everything that you've been through. But what I love about that is that it's the authenticity and it's how honest you've been about every part of your journey, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs. And I just felt like it would be really, really great to get you on here, because I think something that has shone through right from the beginning, right from that very first post that you put out telling everyone what had happened, is just your light is brighter than it ever was before, which I just think is absolutely incredible. And I think your message needs to be heard. And we were saying again just before we came on air how life has a funny way of sending us down a path that we may not choose to go down, and we may not see at the time why we would want to go down it and how that would be a good thing. But you know, I feel like your light is brighter than it's ever been before, and I feel like your voice is stronger than it's ever been before. And I think the more people hear you and your story, the better place this world's going to be. And I truly mean that. So we're starting with this little old podcast. with a mere 65,000 odd listeners. So to everybody listening out there, enjoy this episode. As always, we're going to mention links and things. You can find those in the show notes. So if you want to click through to find anything like the blog or anything else that we reference, then go ahead and click the show notes. But for now, sit back and relax as I introduce, this is the longest intro ever, the most wonderful Georgina Budd. Hello,
hi you guys. Oh, it's brilliant to be on here. It's I was really chuffed when you asked me.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I'm trying to reach as many people as I can now, because I feel like the things that I've got to say are important. And, you know, having been through a lot, you feel like you can empathise more with people that have gone through stuff as well, because I mean, it doesn't matter what someone's been through, it's to them personally it can be the biggest thing. It can trigger anxiety and depression, and it doesn't matter what it was, you're still feeling that way. And so I think it's important to just reach out to everybody that you can. So as Lily said, I was in a car crash last year. And I was driving to work. As she mentioned, I'm a doctor. I was on the way to my A&E shift, and I swerved on some gravel and I hit a tree at 50 miles an hour. And just like that, my life completely changed. I woke up in the car and couldn't feel or move my legs. And the sinking feeling when that happened is something that I won't be able to do justice with words, but... particularly because it was my profession, I knew what had happened and I knew what was coming.
Yeah, I bet the doctor brain was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I know what we're dealing with.
I can remember I had like doctor head on in the car, and a lovely man named Peter, who I'm still in touch with, he got in the car with me.
Yeah.
And was checking me out, and I can remember saying to him, "Sir, you're going to have to leave the car because the engine is smoking, my legs are not moving, you cannot move me, and I am not going to be responsible for you." And he was just like, shut up, and put his coat round me. And, you know, I'm incredibly grateful to not just him, but the emergency services that day. I mean, that particular time is a bit of a blur. You know, I struggle to remember bits and bobs, but it was only a week after my accident that I started writing the blog.
Right.
And it was, for me at that time, it was something that I wanted to push me onwards. You know, I wanted to share things, but it was also something of, I need to do this. I need something to focus on. So the fundraising and the rehab was that. And I said from the start, you know, this isn't the end for me. It definitely isn't. And I was lucky enough to get out of the crash. I was lucky enough to not sustain a brain injury or damage my hands in any way. So losing my legs, of course it was devastating. There were so many questions at the time, you know, will I be able to have kids? Will I walk again? Can I go on roller coasters? In fact, that was my first question to the surgeon. He came round and I was like, just, can I go on roller coasters again? And, you know, so I wanted to not focus on the negative, focus on the positive. What are you going to make out of this? Because whatever happens in life, that's what you have to cling on to, is it's happened and nothing is going to change it. And I said in that hospital in the first few weeks, I'm not going to get down about this, you know. And of course that was impossible. There are days when you are really down about it.
Yeah.
But you look at it a different way, and you look at it in, okay, well, it's happened. I've got the next 60 odd years, because I've still got a normal life expectancy. What can I make of my life? What can I still do? Yeah. What things are going to be hard? How do I do those now? And I'm determined to just do what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which is why I got back to work really quick.
Yeah.
So it was just after the year mark that I returned to work.
That's amazing.
And so yeah, I'm back at the hospital with patients and, you know, dealing with other people, and that's what I always wanted to do. I just wanted to help. And as I was saying to you before we went on air, it's amazing the positives you can take from a bad situation.
Yeah.
And this has given me a new platform to speak on and a new group of people to advocate for. So I'm trying to get more involved a lot with disabled doctors and, you know, the stigma that is still around that, because I actually posted something on my blog the other day, an article about disabled doctors, and what I really liked is they kept saying disability, not inability.
Right, yeah.
And that's really key. Because there is still a lot of stigma. I get people that have walked into me. I've got people who have talked to whoever I'm with and won't talk to me.
Really?
They'll be asking questions about me.
God.
I had a lady on the trains going, "Where's she going?" And I was sat there right next to her.
Oh my God.
So there is still that, and you do come across those things, but you know, it's challenging that. It's saying, well, actually, no, my legs don't work, but my brain works just fine.
Yeah, my ears are working, cheers.
Yeah.
I can hear what you're saying.
You know, and you just have to push past that, and you challenge those people's perceptions of you. It's actually been really funny going back to work, because the best part of it is the patient's reactions to me.
Yeah.
Because you kind of roll up to them and you're like, "Hi, I'm your doctor today." And I will never forget the first lady I treated, who was sort of, she would have had her bus pass, but she was immaculate, and she was very, you never would have thought she was the age that she was.
Yeah.
But she was a little bit, not confused, but just a bit hard of hearing. And,
right.
And I'd wheeled up to her and gone, "Hello, you know, I'm Dr. Budd. How can I help you today?" And we talked for a little bit, and then she went, "Are you one of the patients?" And I went, no, I'm the, you know, stethoscope on, lanyard on. No, I'm your doctor. And she was like, "Oh, why are you in the chair then?" And so quick explanation. I was like, "Shall we get back to you?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's also amazing the kindness that you find, you know, people who are unwell themselves that can't do enough to help you look after them.
Right, yeah.
And that's really something quite precious, you know. I've not come across anyone yet that's been like, "Well, actually don't want you as my doctor because if something bad happened, I don't feel you can do anything."
Yeah.
And of course that was the challenge going back to work, was what are you actually going to be able to do? And I had to turn around to them and say, "I don't know. I don't know what problems I'm going to find, but I'm going to come back and see."
Yeah.
And I mean, I can still examine people, you know, I have to deal with bed heights and whatever, but you know, I can still do everything I could do before. Of course, you know, if someone's really unwell and needed cardiac resuscitation, that's not something that I can do well. But in those sort of situations, you've usually got more than just you there.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that I can do is do my best until, you know, something else comes along, and you adapt. And I mean, adapting is something that I've got very good at in the past 15, 16 months, because you have to find ways around things.
I just think it's amazing though, because like I'm sat here and I'm listening to you, and obviously I know you as a person, so I'm sat here going, of course that's what she thought, because you're Georgie, and that, like, you've always been this big bouncy ball of positivity. Like, we're soul sisters in that way. I feel like you're seen the same way a lot of people see me, that we bounce around and like we'll always choose to find the good if we can. But like, you know, I feel like a lot of what you're saying is you're going, "Oh yeah," and then of course I went back to work. But that's huge. Like, you're so amazing. And I don't know, I'm sure people have told you, but I'm going to tell you right here, right now, that is absolutely phenomenal that you've done that. And even just the mindset to have even thought, okay, so I'm going to go back to work. Because I think so many people could, and probably do, think, "Oh no, because I can't do this and I can't do this." Like you just said, it's about where you put your focus. So do you think that was a conscious decision? Like, have you consciously gone, right, well, I could go down that rabbit hole and be thoroughly depressed and list all the ways that I can't do whatever, or I'm going to focus on these things that I can? Or is this just something that's always been in you? Is this just the way you're built?
I think it was definitely a conscious decision. I think I was I always tended towards that anyway.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I can remember in those first few weeks putting, you know, there were a lot of tears and a lot of heartache and a lot of unanswered questions, and there still is some days, you know. I mean, I'm sure, you know, being the same sort of person, that you'll get this, that, you know, in the same vein as sort of Robin Williams and famous characters like that, people, because they see you as being happy all the time, expect you to be happy all the time, and you kind of sometimes even feel like an obligation to bounce around and be like, no, I'm happy, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And so some days you do struggle because you're like, oh, you know, actually today I don't feel fine and I don't want to do this, and but you have to make that conscious decision, I think, on those days, and it's hard. And, you know, I get really, you can ask like my mum and those closest to me, I get really hard on myself, and I'm like, oh, I've done nothing with my day, you know, blah blah blah. And they'll say, but think of everything that you have done. You know, you're allowed a break. And I think that's something that's important to people listening, is that particularly if you've gone through something and you do end up struggling with depression, anxiety, low confidence, it's hard some days. You know, when I first had a dealing with depression, people have that attitude of, well, why can't you just choose to be happy? And it's not that simple. It is not. And there's days when you just can't do it.
Yeah.
But as long as you get up the next day and you try to be happy, and that's the difference. There's wallowing in it, and there's trying to be happy and appreciating that some days you're just not going to manage it because everything's a bit too much.
Yeah.
But if you get up every day and you try your best, then that's all you can do. And no one can judge you for that, and you especially shouldn't judge yourself for that, because you're doing your best, and in this life that's all anyone can ask of you. And I think accepting that is a big sort of milestone to sort of not being so anxious or having low self-confidence, because, like, take for example in my work, it's very easy to be criticised in the job that I'm in, and your bosses sometimes will not be the nicest when you forget something or can't tell them something. But by the end of my first year as a doctor, I realised that the important thing was just to keep it together, to keep calm, to know that you've done your best, and for that to sit right with you.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing after the accident, was I am choosing to keep going in this direction and to keep going. Yeah. You know, and that's always been the case, I think, through all of my rehab, is, okay, next challenge, keep going. And, you know, I've had many setbacks. Yeah. And all of us have, you know, within the spinal cord community and within life. You're always going to get setbacks, but it's that whole famous saying of get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. Yeah. And you just, you know, you're not going to be able to get up every day, but as long as you can get up in the end, it's all right.
I love that, and I think, you know, what you said is true as well. There is, you do often feel this obligation to be the person everybody sees you as, so to be, you know, the positive one, and obviously as a doctor as well, I guess some people must just think, oh, well, you're a doctor, so you're going to be fine, like, because you know all the things, so you know, you don't. And so I think the perception other people have of you can be something to live up to sometimes, which can be tiring, and then you do feel that obligation, and you can be hard on yourself if you feel like you've wasted a day. I totally relate to that. But again, it's perception, isn't it? Because I will sit there and go, oh my God, I've done nothing today. Like, you've been totally lazy, totally useless. You haven't done this, you haven't done that. And then if I just spend 3 minutes and ask myself, but what did you do? I realise that I kept 3 human beings alive, as well as myself. Like, my house is still standing. We all got fed. You know, you've never done nothing. And sometimes the sitting and the accepting and just the breathing in and out is the work to be done. Yeah. There is nothing more.
And I think it's all relative, you know. Some people's, you know, anxiety, depression, the big terms now, they're getting more recognition, which is absolutely great. But everyone's is different. And for some people, just getting out of bed is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay. If that is your goal for the day, to actually get up, have a wash, and I don't know, sit and watch TV and just let your mind chill, then that's okay. You know, I have a problem of I set myself goals sometimes that are way too big. And then when I don't reach them, end up feeling really crap about myself.
That's my favourite game.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, you're right, you do just have to sit there and go, but what did I do today? Yeah. And you realise you've done more than you thought, you know, and also you're allowed that break, you know, as long as you're not caving into it all the time, you know, and there are times that you have to stop yourself, and I've done it myself where I've been like, right, this is your third day of binge watching American Horror Story, you should probably get something productive done, and you can't stick your head in the sand. But if it's just the odd day now and again where you're letting yourself have some time where you don't have to think about anything and you don't have to be productive, I think that's important too. You know, there's a saying, you can't pour from an empty vessel. You know, if a glass doesn't have anything in itself, then you can't pour out someone else's glass of water. Right. And, you know, that's important. You need to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. And I mean, you as a mum will know that, you know, you and yourself have to be okay in order to deal with these crazy tiny human beings, you know? And I think that's the same with my patients. You know, I have to, and I say this because I do a lot of teaching, and that's actually something that this accident has opened up a new world for me, because I can still teach very easily. It's something that's very easy for me to do. And so I'm getting more and more involved. But the reason I first got into teaching was I wanted a new outlook from these young doctors. I was fed up of the sort of historical sort of big doctor view of doctor is there, doctor is God, and I will do what doctor says, to this more trendy approach of, you know, the holistic care, of the caring about what's going on for the patient, what's important to the patient. And, you know, but I also say to all of my phone's going, sorry, go over there. Oh, that's made you louder. Why? But no, I always say to my students, you know, you have to look after yourself before you can look after those patients. The patients will always be there. As long as they're not actively dying, you've got time to go away and have a drink and have a sandwich and look after yourself. And that's important in any walk of life. And I also try and teach them a lot about compassion and empathy, because before I was a doctor, I actually worked as a nursing assistant for years. So I've seen things from the other side. And now, having been a long-term patient, and not only that, but the relative of, you know, my dad went in for major cardiac surgery 2 weeks after my crash.
Right, that's right.
And, you know, so being on that side as well, I've got this sort of multifaceted view of what it's like to be on the other side of healthcare, and it's not nice. And it's made better by people who you feel actually care about what you care about. Right. And so I think that is the key to all of my teaching, is 1, look after yourself, and 2, looking after the patient doesn't always just mean treating their illness or, you know, putting the dressing on or whatever you're doing to them. It's caring about their problems, their expectations, you know, and it's empathising. It's going, well, hang on, this patient's relative isn't being arsey with me because they want to be. They're being arsey with me because they feel like their relative is suffering and they're scared. You know, and appreciating that, I think, is the key part of being a good doctor and a good human being. You know, you never know what someone else is going through, so I feel like don't judge and be kind, and that's all you can do. But yeah, going back to your original question, it was definitely a conscious decision for me to put a positive spin on it. And I mean, that's what I love about the blog, is that although when you see me and speak to me, I will always be positive, and I try always to be positive, on the blog, it is easier for me to sit behind the laptop and share the bad days.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're still, as a society, very uncomfortable when someone falls apart in front of you, you know. That's, I think, why we're so bad at dealing with really bad illnesses and particularly sort of care of the dying and death in general. You know, we're really bad at speaking about it because it's uncomfortable to confront bad emotions. Whereas when you're sat behind a keyboard, you can share all that because people can then read it in the comfort of their own homes and they can feel safe and they don't have to feel awkward or sorry for you or whatever. And I think that's what I love about the blog, is that I'm able to share my bad days. And to put that out there was important to me because I wanted people to see that, okay, you know, I've had a lot of praise and I'm inspiring and all of this, and, you know, I take that and that's beautiful to hear. It really is. But you also want people to see that you're a real person.
Right, yeah.
And that you're struggling. And that if you're struggling, but you can rise up and do all these things, that if they're struggling, they can do the same.
Right, yeah.
And one of the best things about writing the blog is the messages I get. You know, the emails I get off of people saying, you know, this is what's happened to me, you know, and I admire your courage. And I'm like, well, no, I admire yours. Because everybody's situation is something that they've got to come through themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to write the blog. I wanted to put it out there because if the way I was feeling connected with someone and helped somebody else think it's not just me, I'm not alone, then that's fine with me. And that is also why I'm so honest about things, because, you know, none of what has happened to me is my fault. You know, I'm very good at feeling guilty about things. Particularly like when I had my crash, because I said my dad was due this massive cardiac surgery. I'd been scheduling time off, extra shifts so I could help pay the mortgage. And I had the crash, and I can remember being in A&E in agony and saying to my dad, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, this is so selfish of me, when it wasn't anything I had any control over.
No.
But you can't help feeling that sometimes. And I think, you know, if you put those feelings out there on paper, people realise that it's not just me that feels guilty for things I can't control, you know, and that's really the basis of some of my depression and anxiety. And again, why I'm so honest about things, because you have to put them out there. It makes you, I think it makes you stronger talking about these things and admitting these things. It's very easy to squirrel mental health away, you know. I mean, on the blog I talk about the fact that a few years before the crash I was raped, and rape is a dirty word to some people. They won't say it. I'm very open and I say it because I was raped. I was a rape victim. And by saying it, I'm saying it was not my fault. I am not ashamed of this.
Yeah, right.
Because
stand in your own power when you say that.
Yeah, and you've got to stand up and sort of, you know, and I never mean to offend people or make people feel uncomfortable, but it's that sort of thing of, I'm going to own this. I'm going to own my own experiences, because I'm not letting them make me feel 2 inches tall.
Right.
And it was that sort of power play on it of, if I'm honest about it and I own it myself, then, you know, what more can you do?
I love what you've said. I mean, I love everything you've said, actually. You've touched on so many things that are so key. One of the things I want to pick up on is the fact that everybody is on their own journey. Everyone's on their path. And this is why I think so many people struggle to talk about things that are taboo. So like rape, or like mental health, or like dying, or, you know, terminal illness, all of these things that people just wish we could stick on a shelf and not talk about. And it's because every single person is dealing with it as a human being on their level. So when you share about that, I think, you know, certainly from my perspective, when I was talking about my anxiety to begin with, I would always worry about how what I was saying was going to affect everybody else around me. And it's funny it's come up actually, because I wrote a blog only this morning, which has been in my brain for a couple of days, and usually I would write it immediately, and because the kids are off school and God knows what, I haven't got round to it. And this morning I just got up and I thought, I'm going to write it, because I had this epiphany that a lot of anxiety and fear and stress stems from our worry about what other people are going to think and how other people are going to react. And I'm trying this new thing out now, which I've started today, which is I'm just going to ask myself in any given situation, what do I need to do? And what do I think is the right thing to do in my gut and in my heart and in my soul? Because I think that's the thing to follow. Yeah. I think when we live in this, you know, and I'm a born people pleaser. And I know, like, you're the same, and like hence why you're a doctor probably, because it's like the best profession to be in. Like, you want to help people, and it's beautiful, but it can make us feel a bit like you forget that you're allowed to please yourself too. Yeah. And you forget that sometimes you're allowed to need the things that you need. And I think, you know, the point that you've made, or the points you've been making, are so key, because in sharing from the heart like you do, and in telling your story so authentically, not only are you being a voice for everybody else who isn't at that place yet where they maybe feel like they can't speak out, but also you are processing it yourself. It's it's therapy for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the other big things starting the blog, was that it got these thoughts out of my head. It managed to order them in a way that I couldn't do just sat there thinking about it. Yeah. And it's very cathartic writing. I find that. And, you know, if the product of it that it's helping other people deal with their problems and their experiences, then that's great. That's a bonus for me. Yeah. It would have been very easy for me to write and keep it to myself. Yeah. But through sharing it, I feel like there could be a benefit to other people, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to show people that, you know, you can make it through. You know, you can rise, you can do this. Yeah. And I think that's something that more of us should do. And we live in a society where I think honesty is actually not looked on very kindly sometimes, because a lot of the things that when you speak honestly about things, some of them can be quite uncomfortable, and we're taught as a society, don't make other people uncomfortable. It's selfish of you. It's wrong. Yeah. No, it's not. It's your opinion, and it's how you feel, and you should never be ashamed of how you feel. Right. You know, you should definitely, you know, be able to speak your mind and to say these things without shame. You know, and I think you're right. I think the key to life is just being true to yourself and your own morals. And if something sits right with you and you can go, I'm okay with that, then there shouldn't be a problem in sharing it, because you're really okay with that. It's only when we doubt ourselves that, you know, that becomes a problem, I think. Yeah. And we try and please people all the time. You know, you want to look like you're successful. You want to look like, you know, you've got your stuff together. And I think sometimes, particularly in the age we live in with so much social media and that, it can be really difficult to stay true to what you actually believe. Yeah. And it's challenging, but I don't know. I just think, you know, that's the way I live my life. Yeah. I'm good to other people. I hope people are good to me. Yeah. And if they're not, that's their problem, not mine. Yeah. You know, and if they don't like what I'm saying, they're welcome to not listen. Yeah. You know, I don't see this need for conflict and you know, things like that. I think you just remove yourself from that negativity.
I actually think if more people felt able to do what you're saying, there would be less conflict anyway. I think a lot of conflict is often just born out of fear and frustration. It's often the most unkind people are the ones who are the most sheltered and the ones who feel like they can't be themselves, and in some way are, you know, they're not living in alignment with who they feel they really are. So I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing, as I said. I'm wondering if there's a book in the pipeline. Think you're going to do a book?
There is. That's always been the plan. It's just been a crazy year.
Yeah, totally.
And I think now that I've got my foot back in the door with work and I'm, able to do my therapy twice a week, I can start getting into a routine where I will actually be able to sit down and write the book.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really want to put it out there. And I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. It's one of those things where I've got 1,000 different ideas.
Yeah.
But whatever it's going to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Oh, it's going to be amazing. I feel like sometimes, I think when it comes to writing a book, it's a bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You just have to chuck it all down. And it's a faith thing, isn't it? Just having faith that what comes through is what is needed.
Yeah.
And, you'll put out, maybe it's an entire series of books, who knows. I think that's amazing. What was the other thing I wanted to say to you? There was something, so many things I wanted to say. Oh yeah, I just wanted to ask you, from everything you've been through, and I'm talking everything now, not just the crash, because I think this is the other thing, when something big like this happens, it's very easy for that to suddenly become like the only thing that people speak to you about. And it's like, oh, how about this, how about that? But actually, we were saying earlier, you're almost 28. We'll say almost 28. You've had 28 years of experience in this life, and obviously you're a doctor as well, so you've met people and you've had probably more experience than most. What can you tell us about what you've learned about human beings as a whole and about the way our brains work? What have you learned through everything you've been through and everything you've overcome and everything you believe as a result of that? What have you learned about the human being's ability to take those steps forward and to carry on?
I think we're very resilient as a species, and I think we're more resilient when we are, like I say, true to ourselves, and the people that I've met that have gone through some horrible things are often the most beautiful people, because they can empathise with other people. I think, it's very easy when you haven't been through a lot to sit in your lovely little bubble and go, well, why is she acting like that? Or why is she reacting like that? I don't get it. And that's the thing, you don't get it. So to those people who maybe haven't been through those hardships, I think it's important to challenge their way of thinking. And I think that's how we progress as a society. What I would say is that there is kindness out there if you seek it and if you ask. And in society these days, it is very easy to get bogged down with all the negative. The media is negative, Facebook and things like that. Things get ugly, things get put up that are not nice. And it's important to hold on to the uplifting things and know that they are there, and they just don't make news stories,
Right.
Unfortunately, gunshots are a lot louder than hugs. And real love is actually quite quiet and uneventful, and so it doesn't get much media coverage, but I think hold on to those things. Human beings are, yes, capable of some horrible things, and there are some people out there that are bogged down in their own pain and their own negativity, but if you look for it, there is always love and light out there. And I think those people that are negative sometimes are just hurting, and they're hurting so much that it's spilling out into being horrible to other people.
They need it more than anyone.
Yeah, they do need it more than anyone. And you know what? Sometimes it's very hard to love somebody who is hurting. It's the best thing that you will ever do, but it is very hard. And you mustn't be hard on yourself if you're not capable of that right now. So sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish and be like, okay, well, this person is actually a little bit toxic to my life right now. Their negativity is not what I need. And to distance yourself from that person, be it whether it's family or friends or whoever you meet in life, a boss, a co-worker, it's actually okay to take yourself out of that and go, that's not my problem, but go, I can't cope with that at the moment. And when you're able to, you know, you will give, because human beings are, I always believe, and I want to believe, at their core, kind and loving, because we've all got a family, and if we don't have a family, we've all got friends that we feel are family. So we're all capable of tremendous love. So I think if you're not okay to give that love to someone that's hurting right now, if that's too much for you, don't worry, you'll have your opportunity in the future, because there's a lot of people hurting in this world. And you know, that's okay. I think if you live your life like that, you're on the right track. You know.
And I love what you said as well about the gunshot and the hugs, and it's so true. And actually what you said, that, you know, love is quiet and unassuming, that's your intuition as well. This voice that we should all be listening to is not the loud screamy voice that tells you you're crap. It's that tiny little whisper that's like, you're okay, you're going to be okay. And even if okay for that day means sitting under a duvet sobbing, eating ice cream and watching Netflix or whatever, like, you give yourself what you need, and you do it with love and not with judgment. And I think when we can choose to do that, it's like a massive weight has been lifted. And you said something earlier as well about, you know, being authentic and just owning whatever it is you're going through. And there's real power in that. And I think there's a lot of fear around that as well. And I think that's what a lot of people run from. A lot of people run away from the acceptance of it, because they feel like in the acceptance they're therefore saying that they don't want better. They're almost saying, you know, like, so in the situation you found yourself in with this crash, I think there's been a level of acceptance, and it's not that you're saying, oh well, this is my lot then and I don't get to dream anymore. That's not it at all. It's that this has happened, now I have these options, what am I going to pick? And it's like, it's still an empowered choice. And you said something off air that I want to bring on air, because I think it's actually going to be the title of the whole podcast, which is, you know, right after your crash happened and you were faced with a lot of decisions and you had a lot of questions, and there was a lot of things, I imagine, swirling around, and you had a lot of leads you could have followed with different medical trials that were going on and different options you could have taken to perhaps get the use of your legs back. And tell me what it was you said to the person who was giving you these options. What was the statement you made?
I said, I'm not going to spend my life chasing my legs. And I think, you know, what I mean by that is I do have all this life to live, and I can still live it, whether it's in a wheelchair. Yeah, it's harder. But I can still live my life, and I can still be happy, and I can still chase my dreams. And okay, maybe there are some dreams that are going to be nearly impossible, but that's nearly. You know, I might still be able to do that one day. And you never know what's around the corner, so you have to live each day for you and for happiness. And as long as you're not being, you know, having your happiness at the expense of someone else, then fine, keep pursuing that, you know. And I just didn't want to waste what time I have putting myself through medical procedures and medical trials just so that I could get legs back. You know, yes, losing my legs is devastating and it is hard, and there are days when I am crying and screaming that I don't want to be like this, and this isn't a life, but then you sit back later and you go, actually no, it is. I can find joy in every single day, whether it's something little or something large. And I have many dreams, and I think everyone does in life, and you don't always reach them all. Life is too hectic and too busy, and there are so many other things that not get in the way but sort of take you in a different direction. But I didn't want my whole life to become about my legs. You know, because I'm so much more than that.
Totally. And I think that's such a beautiful metaphor as well, because whether it's legs you're chasing or whatever it is, I think the legs in that statement could represent anything, couldn't it? Like, whatever it is you think you need, maybe you don't need it. Maybe you're in the situation you're in because it's perfect and because life could be better than you ever could have imagined. And we talked a little bit about faith as well before going on air, and about the fact that faith doesn't necessarily mean a religion or a belief in any one thing. It's just the faith of something else, like something better can come. And you mentioned just the faith in yourself is the most powerful thing we can have anyway. But I love that statement that, you know, I wasn't going to give up my life to chase my legs. And I think none of us should be giving up our life to chase our legs or any other body part, or or not a body part, we shouldn't chase anything. I think when we chase something like that, that's the moment we've lost faith that we're on the right path anyway, and that we're always supported and we're always loved.
And I mean, there's a difference between going for something and chasing a dream, for example, and trying to make that happen, and chasing something that you don't necessarily need to achieve that dream.
Oh, it's a soul
and
thing. You feel in your
you
soul.
know, everybody thinks they need something. They need more money. They need a better job. They need a better house. When really in this life, you know, you can't take any of that with you. You've only got one life to live. Yeah. And the things, at the end of the day, the things you will remember are not how much money you had or what your house was like, but would be the people and the love that you surround yourself with. And I've always said, you know, with big birthdays and everything, you know, some people are very materialistic and they're like, oh, can we get you a necklace or can we get you something special? And I'm like, I don't want a keepsake. I want memories. You know, give me money so I can go travelling. Give me money so I can do this, you know. I know money makes the world go round, or give me something that means something to me that's different. I am so sorry.
That's all right. We've had phones ringing on the podcast before.
Oh, it's stopped now. Probably my mum. Mum, we're still phoning the podcast. Just I know you'll edit that out later. So, but no, you know, we all think we need so much in this day and age when really we don't. You know, there are things that we would like, and it's fine to go and treat yourself and get those things. Yeah. But when it comes down to it, the important thing is this life is your own consciousness, being right with yourself, and the people and the love that you choose. You know, that you choose to. There's another beautiful. I live my life in quotes, but a beautiful thing of we accept the love we think we deserve. And you know what? It's okay to actually be like, I deserve this. And that is a fight that I think all of us have. Yeah. And
actually you're born worthy of it. Yeah. And we all feel totally unworthy of all kinds of things. But
I think the people in this world that are not so nice are people that feel entitled, like they deserve everything. And actually... So it's nice to have that balance, you know, everything in moderation. It's the same with the days that you take for yourself. You want to take time for yourself, but not get in a rut where you're not asking more of yourself. Right. You know, so it's all this fine balancing act. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, the important thing, and I say this to all of my students as well, I give talks at Cardiff Uni Open Day because it's where I went. Right. And, you know, a lot of people will give them stats and statistics about which uni's best and blah blah blah, but the way you choose a uni is where you're going to be happy, because you're there for a big part of your life. And the way you choose a career is what you're going to be happy doing, you know. And that's hard because it's very difficult, I think, in this life to find a job you're truly happy and truly have job satisfaction in, because money does rule the world and you have to pay the bills and you have to look after yourself, you have to eat. And the cost of everything these days is ridiculous. So it's easy to get trapped in that rut. But whatever it is you do that makes you happy, whether it's your job or your hobby, you know, and you just do your job to pay the bills, whatever that is, you chase that and you want that and you have that balance. Because life is too short to not be happy in what you're doing. And whatever it is you're doing, if you feel trapped, there is room to change. There is, and I believe that something will change it for you. It's like, you know, I will never say that my accident was a good thing, because obviously it put me through a lot of hurt, and still some days is hard. But being able to see the good that has come out of it, and to see that maybe this has opened another path for me, and maybe that was what I was supposed to be doing all along, and my own sense of what I should be doing was getting in the way of actually what I should be doing.
I get you.
Do you know what I mean? And I know that may sound silly to listeners, but you know, it's that thing of, you feel obligated to do these certain things, you feel you have all these responsibilities, but it's okay to sit there and examine it and go, well, actually, no, it feels like I'm stuck, but I'm not. I have this choice. This is my choice.
Yeah.
And you can always go down a different road, whether it's changing job, changing situation, getting that toxic person out of your life. You are in control here, you know, and I think as long as you're not hurting other people, it's okay to choose something for yourself.
Yeah, that's amazing advice, and it's so true as well. I've got just a couple more questions because I know I always overrun on these podcasts. It's like I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah, you and me could talk all day, we know that.
I wanted to ask you, first of all, what have you attributed your good days to? So you've said, you know, there are times where it's a bad day or you're having like a wobble, but what is it that has got you through those bad days to bring you the better days? What can you attribute to that?
There are a lot of beautiful things in my life, but my support system, man. You know, if listeners, even not readers, I'm used to saying readers, if listeners are going to look at my blog and look at my sort of community online, I call it my tribe, and they get me through. They get me through anything, whether it's my friends or my family or just random strangers that message me. And also the little people in my life. You know, I've got a lot of sort of unofficial godsons and daughters, and you know, children make you smile, man, and they make you realise what's important in life. They really do, because and they've got that raw honesty, that kind of honesty that for some reason gets bred out of us as adults.
I know.
And it's the same with smiling. Did you know a smile is actually a reflex, and babies have that. You know, they really have that, and somehow it gets conditioned out of so many of us that someone smiles at you and you're like, why are they smiling at me?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's okay, smile back, you know?
My husband said that to me the other day. I smiled at him as he came in the kitchen and I gave him a kiss and he went, oh no, that's weird, what do you want? Why is that weird? Like,
but you know, children have that beautiful honesty and raw happiness, you know, and I think it's beautiful to keep your inner child there, because things that make me smile can be so little, you know, sitting on a bus on a beautiful day and looking out the window and seeing a puppy, you know, just simple things, reading a book and reading a line that you really love and you think that hits home with me. I really do believe that it is the little things. But yeah, my support group, my family, my tribe, they get me through. Because it's just love, man. You know, and it sounds very hippie-ish, and I know a lot of the stuff that I've been saying today is very touchy-feely and very new age, and people take the mick out of it constantly, you know, owning your feelings and being in work saying, oh, I actually don't like the way you're behaving towards me right now. Can we have an honest conversation? People take the mick out of it because they're uncomfortable with it. So, you know, don't let those people get in your head, you know.
But I love it because I love that you are a woman of science, essentially, because you're a doctor. and you're a massive hippie as well, like a massive dose of hippie on the side.
Well, because I think, that's important. It's important to be in touch with your feelings, because all of us have them. Yeah. We'd like to deny sometimes that we have these feelings, but we do. Yeah. And we all have these opinions. And yes, sometimes opinions can be controversial and even hurtful. But if you're okay with them, if you believe them, then I truly think being honest and having that open conversation, without any malice, without any, derogatory terms. Yeah. That's the key to understanding each other and to eventually coming to, even if you don't agree, even if you agree to disagree, coming to that impasse is the important thing, is honesty and knowing yourself.
Totally. And the other thing I wanted to ask as well was you've spoken a lot about dreaming today and a lot about having these big goals and the fact that you love to set these lofty goals. So I just want to know what's next for you. Like, what are you envisaging for your amazing life going forward? What's the dream?
So at the moment, the big goal that I have is actually tomorrow. Obviously you guys can't see me, but I have never been a gym bunny. I've always been a bigger girl, and I've owned it and been fine with it. But I never ever thought I would do anything like a marathon or a triathlon. And I am actually doing a triathlon tomorrow. And I actually sat here saying it's a little bit too real and a little bit insane. But, with the accident, there actually came this very liberating freedom of things happen to you that perhaps aren't dignified. So, you don't have control of your bowels or your bladder, and sometimes you don't have temperature control and all these things, and your body shape changes, and it's difficult sometimes. We've all got those insecurities, but with this injury, because it was what it was, essentially, I didn't have control of it and it wasn't my fault. There came this sort of very freeing feeling of no embarrassment at doing these things, because right. I'm doing this to better myself. And I wish I'd had that attitude before the accident when it came to exercise and things of, okay, I'm sweating and I look awful and, this is really hard, but hey, I'm doing it to better myself. Yeah. And not caring about what other people think of you in the gym is really important. And I've got that tomorrow. I know tomorrow I'm going to be a sweaty mess. I'm going to be red as a beetroot, but I don't care because I'm doing something for me. Yeah. And I know when I finish that triathlon tomorrow, I'm going to feel on top of the world, because I never thought I would do it. And that's a dream that I didn't even know I had. Right, yeah, that's amazing. Which is great. As for dreams that I've always, being a doctor has always been my number one thing. I always wanted to help people. My mission now, with what I have been through, with the book coming up, is to change attitudes. You've got to be in it to change it, So I'm in the NHS because I want, and I'm teaching because I want a new generation of doctors that do think about what someone's been through, why someone's doing what they're doing, do empathise with the patient and the relatives, and do talk about things like death and illness and have those upfront and frank conversations, because I really do believe it would be helpful to the majority. Not everyone's talky, not everyone likes to discuss it, and I completely respect people that don't want to put their feelings out there. Yeah. That's okay. If you're not comfortable with it, then that is also okay. Yeah. But at some point in your life, you're going to come across something that you need to have that open, honest conversation about. And I really do believe that having someone that can be open and honest with you, even if you're not that way yourself, is helpful to your journey. Yeah. So that's my thing, is the book and the teaching, get medical education degree under my belt, and move on up in my career.
And I just see it happening. I just think, well, of course it will happen, because you're Georgie. You will create this life.
One of my friends is a consultant, and he always says to me, "You're going to be a professor one day," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, no, I see it. You'll change the world. You will. You'll change the world.
But it's enough for me to just change that little bit for my patients or my family, or just a better outlook, you know.
But I think that's the point though. You know, when we talk about changing the world, it seems like this enormous thing that we could never possibly do. And yet you change the world. First of all, you start with yourself. You change your world.
Yeah.
And then by default, that spills out to everyone that's around you.
Yeah.
And the point is, every single person has it in them to be that to somebody else.
Because small changes make big changes. You know, they inspire other people and things get done that way.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I always said going through medical school, I'm intelligent, but I'm not like research intelligent. It was enough for me to help the patient at the end of my stethoscope instead of, oh, you babbling, instead of, you know, finding the cure for cancer, which is an amazing goal. And there are people out there that are in that research, and I take my hat off to them. Personally, I can't do that. But what I can do is teach and talk and give my experiences and hope that changes or gets through to somebody else who can do something about it. Or, you know, maybe I'll be able to do something about it myself, and someone will carry that on. And I think that sort of legacy, that sort of putting things out there is so important, you know. You make those little changes and they will roll into something big, and you just never know where it's going to take you. But if you feel it's the right thing to do and it makes you happy at the time, that's what you go for.
Go for it. Do it. Including riding roller coasters, I'm guessing.
Yes,
as well.
Definitely.
So what was the... we're all hanging on your word. Like, what did they say? Are you going to ride a roller coaster?
They said yes. So I'm probably one of the best people to ride roller coasters now, because my spine is like fixed, so nothing can happen.
Oh my goodness.
We say that, but there is a roller coaster I'm not allowed to ride for a very funny reason. So my legs, because I'm paralysed, they kind of flop around of their own accord. And there's one of those roller coasters, which I did always want to go on, that you're sort of led flat and you sort of fly along. But your legs aren't strapped in. So as it goes round the corner, my legs would just go, whee! And I'd probably take one out on a tree or something, you know, knowing my life.
Oh no.
But yes, that is definitely one of the goals in the next year, is to ride a roller coaster again. And I will be keeping everyone on the blog updated of all the crazy stuff I get into. I mean, I've already been abroad for the first time in my wheelchair. I took my brother to Amsterdam for his 21st birthday, because honestly, my brother has been a gem and a rock, and he always has been. He's a beautiful soul. I couldn't be more proud of him.
Can I just take a moment to reel at the fact that little Harry is 21?
Yes, I know.
So rude. Harry was about 9 the last time I saw him.
And he had this little chubby cheeks and floppy hair and everything.
He was a rock star then.
Yeah.
And he's a rock star now.
And he's now, you know, tatted up and hench and doing some amateur boxing and just being an absolute star and a rock for his family. I'm very proud of that kid.
Amazing boy. Well, we're sending lots of love out to Harry as well. And I want to wrap up with a question that I ask every single person, which is, if you had a megaphone and the ability to reach every anxiety sufferer in the world right now, what would you want them to know?
That what you're doing right now is enough. That, you know, you're doing okay. And you know what? If you keep getting up every day and battling the same demons from the day before, you are doing a fantastic job. That is bravery. Bravery is, it's not the big gestures that we think it is. It's those little things. It's keeping yourself going. And you know, I always say, if I can do it, if I can keep going, then maybe I can show someone else that they can keep going. And there is always something out there for you, whether you feel unloved or unwanted, or that, you know, because of your anxiety, you're a difficult person to be around. There is always someone out there who will love you. And who will support you. And you deserve that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much.
No, it's cool. It's been really good just catching up and having a chat.
I know.
And this little one.
I know. She's been ever so good. And she was trying to chime in at the final word there. Did you get that? She was like, I've got something to say about that. If people want to find your blog, where do they find it? We'll obviously put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, so on Facebook, if you type in Learning to Walk Again, the rehab efforts of Georgie Budd, either of those should bring it up.
Yeah.
And you can like the page. The first blog that I ever wrote is constantly pinned to the top. So if you want to start at the beginning, there is a nice starter there. I post pictures and videos and competitions that are going on, all kinds of things. But also there's a link to, I now have a website which I run, which has an archive of all the blogs that I've ever written.
Cool.
And I will also keep you all up to date with the book. It's going to be a bit of a long slog, I think, but I'm hoping to keep people with me till that book is out.
Yes, well, I do know there are people listening who, I mean, I'm connected with people all over the world in all kinds of things, and I know there are people that listen to my podcast who are in the book world. So if there's anybody listening who wants to help Georgie get her book out into the world, let us know. Get in touch and tell us how we can do that.
I've got to continue writing it first.
Yeah. Well,
but yes,
yeah.
help would be great.
And for the triathlon as well, that's a fundraiser, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a sponsored triathlon. The aim was to raise around £6,000.
Yeah.
Because that will allow me to stay in therapy twice a week. And yeah, for the next year or so, which would be brilliant. You know, we're getting there, but more sponsors are always welcome.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that eventually, obviously, because I've only just gone back to work, financially things are difficult right now, and that's why I'm doing this for me. But in the future, I aim to do more sponsors and more fundraisers, but for spinal cord charities, and you know, to even Orphan Mind, a very good mental health charity that has helped me out no end.
Right.
So eventually, I'm hoping that this will turn into more of a charity, which I can set up and start going. For the moment, it's just to keep me in therapy.
But it's like you say, that's where it has to begin.
Yeah.
We need you well, so you can continue to do your wonderful work in the world.
Well, that's the hope. And I'm hoping to start doing more sort of motivational speaking and things like that. So please, if you are listening and do want to follow me on Facebook, have a look at the website and become part of the tribe.
Yes, join the tribe.
Would be great.
And if you want to donate to the triathlon, to the cause, then click the link in the show notes. Even just whatever you can give would be so appreciated.
Oh God,
it?
yeah.
And it would make such a difference, and you can actually start making a difference right now by doing that. So do get involved. If you want to stay connected with Georgie, I'm going to be inviting you to come into our Facebook group.
Oh, grand.
So we have a Facebook group for the podcast, so you guys can tag Georgie in there if you have questions, or if you want to say anything about this interview, if it's helped you, if there's anything you want to chime in on, then do that over in the Facebook group. We'll pop the link in the show notes for that one as well. And I'll be back very, very soon with another episode with Sophia, obviously, who is now 5 months old. Can you believe it? It's absolutely mad. But thank you guys all for listening. Thank you so much, Georgie, for being on my podcast.
Oh, I loved it. And thank you for coming and meeting Sophia. I got baby cuddle. I'm getting smiled at, guys. This is beautiful.
And we'll look forward to seeing where your journey takes you next.
Yeah, thank you.
And everybody listening, remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. I'm going to be back again very, very soon with another episode. Sending you loads and loads of love. Bye-bye. And that's us done for another episode. I hope you are now feeling uplifted, inspired and motivated, and ready to start making those positive changes starting today. To get you started on your journey, I've created the Confidence Academy Members Club. This is an online resource designed to teach you everything you need to know about thriving in spite of anxiety, building unshakable confidence, and creating life on your terms. As a member, you will have access to weekly coaching calls with me and online trainings to help you manage your anxiety, overcome stress, and build confidence. Each month, we host a members-only masterclass with a guest expert from the podcast, giving you the opportunity to access world-class trainings and techniques for a fraction of the cost. For more information, head over to lilybadcock.com or hit the link in the show notes below. In the meantime, I'll be back again soon with another new episode and more amazing guest experts. But until then, look after yourself, dream big and live bigger. And remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it.